Shooters. If you thought about Call of Duty when we said that, I'm glad we put effort into this video. The most misunderstood genre of video games. These games are promoted by the media as bloody, extremely violent, and that if you play too much of them, you become a killer yourself. Sounds bogus, right? I treated these claims with skepticism too, but is the history of this genre as bloody as the media proclaims it is? Let's find out.
id Software. Ever heard of the guys? They're the game studio behind the first mainstream 3D shooter, Wolfenstein. You guessed it, 3D. Now before I go on talking about this game, a disclaimer. There were a few first-person shooters before this game, but they were all relatively unpopular. Now, on with Wolfenstein. You might think Wolfenstein 3D was the first game in the series, but you're wrong. Wolfenstein got all its inspiration, level design, and some game mechanics from a game that released a whole decade earlier. Would you like to hear about the game that started it all?
The game was the brainchild of geeky programmer named Silas Warner. Silas was quite large, at 7 feet tall and over 300 pounds. His wife called him a marvelous giant, but you can't handle that one, Weight Watchers. His few friends called him a prototypical geek, but while he lacked a life outside of his home, he made up for it in his creativity and knowledge.
1978. Garfield debuted in newspapers across America, and the US dollar plunged to a record low. The same year when Silas and his friends Ed Zarin and Jim Black created Muse Software. He and his team began making games for the Apple II, an early desktop computer if you already didn't know. He released his first success, Robot War, which is a game where he programmed a robot using code to battle against other robots. Another program named The Voice was the first program on the Apple II that could record and play back sounds.
The greatest ideas can come from the weirdest places, just like Silas thought up of Castle Wolfenstein when he took a trip to the local 7-Eleven and saw the arcade game Berserk. He became inspired by the gameplay and wanted to make a game similar to that, but he didn't know what should be the theme of the game. Silas was tired of sci-fi shooters, which were made popular by Space Invaders and Galaxian. The idea of a World War II shooter came from a classic movie called The Guns of Navarone, released in 1961, which revolved around a group of spies from the Allies who needed to infiltrate a Nazi prison and free prisoners by destroying 2 guns preventing their escape. Warner loved the idea of sneaking around shooting Nazis, so he used it in his game, Castle Wolfenstein, released in 1981. Castle Wolfenstein became immensely popular, getting ported to many systems at the time, including the Atari 800, DOS, and the Commodore 64. Castle Wolfenstein was also one of the first games on the Apple II to include computerized voice, aka Siri's Great Grandpa. They followed it up with a sequel, Beyond Castle Wolfenstein, released in 1984. Beyond Castle Wolfenstein put in new features such as dragging bodies around and bribing, just to mention a few. Sadly, due to slow sales of the computer software at the time, Muse filed for bankruptcy in 1985 and completely shut down in 1987.
The series was dead, or was it? Illuminati confirmed. In 1991, id Software became a studio. Do you remember when we talked about id Software? No? Well, let's give you a brief rundown. It consisted of John Romero, John Carmack, Tom Hall, and Adrian Carmack. Only 4 members? But what a revolution they started. John Carmack, the geeky programmer of the squad, created a new first-person game engine. He and his team loved top-down shooters and wanted to make them 3D using the engine. id made a new IP, Hover Tank 3D, on April 1991. The game was alright, but had terrible textures on the walls and wasn't impressive enough. John Romero told John Carmack about how his friend developed how to make walls and floors have textures. John Carmack used this new technology in his game Catacomb 3D on November 1991. Hover Tank 3D and Catacomb 3D were sold in Gamer's Edge, a monthly game distribution center for the PC. id Software was ready to release a fully fledged title using shareware. Shareware allows you to play part of the game for free and then pay the rest if you like it. An early demo, per se. So the team got working, sitting late night and dipping their Doritos in Mountain Dew, trying to get ideas for the new title. John Romero remembered how he used to play Castle Wolfenstein and wanted to 3Dify it. John Romero first bought the rights to Wolfenstein from my old grandma from Baltimore. Romero said it was real cheap. John Carmack got to work on better sounds, better doors, better textures, smarter enemies, more colors, secret rooms, and a faster frame rate. The game forgot the old stealth theme and opted for a run and gun, a fast-paced shooter, which you can see had a massive impact on the shooters of today. May 5th, 1992. Wolfenstein goes out to the public on Microsoft DOS. It was a massive success. The game single-handedly built up the foundation for the first-person shooter genre. It also started up mods with players making all kinds of spoofs for the game, including a Barney mod.
With massive success and some controversy from getting banned in Germany, the team at id took a break and went to Kansas Fest, a festival all about the Apple II computer. It turns out the marvelous giant Silas himself was present at the festival. John Romero approached him at the back of a room and introduced him to the whole team and the game. Silas loved the team and the game, and he gave the team at id his blessings. And that brought an end to Wolfenstein for a whole decade. The latest installment, Wolfenstein: The New Order, takes place in the future where the Nazis won the war. But back to 1994, where id's latest shooter, Doom, hit the shelves. If you've never heard of Doom before, shame on you! Doom's plot revolved around an unnamed space marine that everyone calls Doom Guy that is deported by his commander to a Mars space base for not firing on civilians. Sounds an awful lot like Finn from Star Wars The Force Awakens. Wait a sec. The base on Mars acts as security for the Union Aerospace Corporation, a multi-planetary empire. Wait, I'm really sensing the Force here. Which is performing secret experiments with teleportation by creating portals between the two moons of Mars, Deimos and Phobos. This all changes when the Union Aerospace Corporation's experiments go horribly wrong. Computer systems on Phobos malfunction, Deimos disappears entirely, and devils start pouring out the gateway from hell, killing all UAC officers. In desperation, a team of soldiers and prisoners, including Doomguy, infiltrate the Phobos station. Doomguy's whole team dies, and he's left alone to fight the spawn of hell. Deep story in the 90s.
If Wolfenstein created the first-person genre, Doom perfected it. Doom had an incredible sound for the time. Doom had graphics that blew away games that came a year after it. Doom had created a community of hardcore first-person shooters fans that have drifted off into Call of Duty, Titanfall, Battlefield, etc. Doom 2 perfected perfection. Even more levels, even better sound. Everyone loved Doom. The last Doom ever to be launched was Doom 3. Doom 3 had an incredible graphics for 2004 but faltered because the story was limited for 2004 and players were frustrated that the gameplay hadn't changed in a decade.
Fast forward to today, shooters have taken over the market. 49.9% of any video game played are shooters. That's massive. The second highest genre is under 15%. But this massive number has actually declined over the years, with shooter sales dropping and many gamers blaming casual mobile games, which are easy to start but scarily addictive. Still, while their player count continues to decrease, shooters will never die out due to increasing viewership of esports and MLG. There will always be that 1% of hardcore players that will play them and watch them. A recap. Gaming has evolved so much from the simple dorm rooms and parents' basements to massive companies and a multi-billion-dollar industry. Doom, Wolfenstein 3D, they were so influential. You can see the inspiration and how gameplay ethics are eerily similar. To close, I would just like to say that I'm proud to be part of a community that is so dedicated, has evolved and aged so well. It's inspirational. And with that, let's look forward to the next Doom.
Peggy 18.